If you've tried to keep up with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, especially, the really intense period in 2023, 2024 in Gaza, you probably know it feels like drinking from a fire hose.
Absolutely.
Daily headlines just give you these tiny fragments, right?
Yeah.
And it's almost impossible to get the bigger picture.
You feel completely lost.
Exactly. So our mission today on the deep dive is to try and cut through some of that noise. We've gathered this pretty unique stack of sources. We've got legal analysis under international humanitarian law, military and strategic insights, real-time news reports from a major outlet, even stuff from social media, which you don't always see analyzed together. The whole goal is to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge, really, to help you get a genuinely well-informed perspective on this.
It's about finding clarity in the complexity.
Precisely. Okay, let's dig in. So this latest really devastating phase kicked off October 7th, 2023, those Hamas-led attacks. The impact for Israelis was just immediate and horrific.
Yeah.
Over 1,300 people killed. And the hostages. Israel first said 155, then it went up to 199. The U.S. State Department also confirmed 30 Americans killed, 13 unaccounted for.
Staggering numbers from the start.
And to really grasp the human side of it, there's that story from Kfar Aza, these parents killed protecting their twin babies.
Oh, I remember reading about that. Terrible.
Yeah, and the babies were rescued like 14 hours later by Israeli military agents. It paints such a vivid picture of the terror, but also, I suppose, the heroism of those first hours.
And the immediate response internationally was quite layered. You had President Biden saying pretty clearly, Israel has to respond. They have to go after Hamas.
Right, a strong statement of support.
But then, almost in the same breath, he warned that an Israeli occupation of Gaza would be, quote, a big mistake.
That's interesting. Support, but with a major caveat right from the get-go.
Exactly. It shows the tightrope everyone was walking. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Netanyahu was very direct. This is only the beginning, his stated goal, to destroy Hamas.
And they named specific leaders.
Yes. Israeli officials pointed to Yahya Sinwar and El Deif as being responsible for October 7th, making their elimination, a central military objective.
And of course, as Israel began its response, the humanitarian situation in Gaza just deteriorated incredibly fast.
Immediately.
Israel warned residents in northern Gaza to evacuate south. That led to this huge exodus, people fleeing their homes.
And the UN instantly raised the alarm, didn't they? Warning about untold human suffering.
Yeah, supplies were running out, hospitals were right on the edge of collapse, and then Gaza's only power plant shut down. No fuel.
Which affects everything.
Right.
Water, sanitation, hospitals, everything relies on that power.
It's hard to even imagine the ripple effects. So as these Israeli military operations ramped up, they naturally came under intense scrutiny, especially under International Humanitarian Law, or IHL.
Right, the rules of war.
Exactly. The law is meant to limit the effects of conflict, protect civilians. And we looked at one study by Rami Ismail, which hypothesizes that Israeli actions in Gaza during this period, 2023 through 2024, may be considered as violations of international humanitarian law.
That's a significant claim based on analysis of the events.
What kind of impacts does that study specifically highlight?
Well, stepping back, the study documents really large-scale destruction. Homes, civilian buildings. It's quite stark.
Like what specifically?
Things like schools, UNRWA schools, the Al-Faqura school, both attacked, resulting in civilian and child casualties. Israel University was demolished entirely after a report said it was used as a military base by Israeli forces.
Wow.
And it goes beyond buildings. Critical infrastructure, roads, water systems, electricity grids across Gaza suffered systematic damage. There's a World Bank, UN, and EU estimate pegging the damage at about $18.5 billion.
Billion, with a B.
Billion, which they calculated is equivalent to 97% of the entire West Bank and Gaza's GDP from 2022.
That's almost total economic wipeout. It's not just damage, it's erasing the foundation of a society.
That's a good way to put it. The study argues this level of destruction raises serious questions. It's led to these incredibly grave allegations. War crimes, crimes against humanity, even genocide. You had South Africa, for example, formally submitting an allegation of genocide to the International Criminal Court.
Very serious charges. But Israel, of course, maintains it follows international law, tries to minimize civilian harm, and often points to Hamas operating within civilian areas. How does that study, or the Israeli perspective we saw, address this?
Well, the Israeli perspective often emphasizes the asymmetric nature of the conflict. Major Genesana called it a war, where Israel has complete military dominance.
Okay.
And there was that admission from an Israeli official about mistakes in intelligence before October 7th. So it's an acknowledgement of perhaps being caught off guard initially.
And what about specific tactics? There were those accusations about white phosphorus from Amnesty and Human Rights Watch.
Right, those accusations surfaced. But the IDF response was very firm, an unequivocal denial, stating, and I'm quoting here, "The IDF has not deployed the use of such munitions." This whole situation really underscores the brutal difficulty of urban warfare. General Petraeus, who obviously has experience in this, noted that civilian losses are inevitable in this kind of fighting.
Yeah.
And he also predicted tough Israeli losses lie ahead as well, because, as he put it, you have to clear every building, every floor, every room, every basement, every tunnel.
Just think about that level of granular fighting in a densely packed area.
It's incredibly dangerous, incredibly destructive, and the risk to civilians caught in the middle is immense. It makes distinguishing combatants from non-combatants exceptionally hard.
And the human cost we talked about earlier, it just kept mounting. Almost 1 million people in Gaza displaced by mid-October 2023.
A huge number, so quickly.
The UN warning people could die from dehydration because water was so scarce, infrastructure destroyed, and that power plant being offline.
And you have to place this against the backdrop of the blockade, which existed before October 7th. Some sources describe Israel's policy towards Gaza between, say, 2007 and 2010 as explicitly punitive.
How so?
Controlling food entry based on calculated minimum calorie needs per person, even restricting specific items like margarine. It was very tightly controlled.
Wow, down to the calorie.
Then, after October 7th, Israel declared a total blockade, cutting electricity, food, water, fuel. The defense minister, Yoav Gallant, used stark language. "We are fighting human animals, and we are acting accordingly." It shows the severity of the response.
And amidst all this, the diplomatic front was challenging, to say the least.
Understatement, yeah.
That key Rafah border crossing with Egypt remained closed for a significant time. Reports of temporary ceasefires were denied by both Israel and Hamas.
Lots back and forth, but no breakthroughs early on.
Still, the U.S., people like Jake Sullivan and David Satterfield were reportedly working around the clock trying to get safe passage for American citizens out through Egypt.
Diplomatic channels were definitely active, even if results were slow.
And the tension wasn't just in Gaza, it was spilling over. Israel evacuated residents near the border with Lebanon.
Right, concerns about Hezbollah.
There were reported Israeli strikes on airports in Syria, Aleppo, and Damascus, and the U.S. moved a second aircraft carrier group to the region.
A very clear signal, trying to deter any wider escalation, particularly involving Iran or its proxies. And you also see information itself becoming part of the conflict. Like that source, Israel dropping paper.
What was that?
Israel dropping leaflets over Gaza. Some urged evacuation, some urged cooperation, some apparently even had Quranic verses or pictures of Hamas leaders.
So direct messaging, but also potentially seen as pressure or threats of forced displacement.
Exactly. And then you get claims circulating on platforms like TikTok. One alleged that Israeli pilots were dropping unused bombs over Gaza after missions elsewhere, like targeting Iran, essentially using it as a dumping ground.
That sounds quite extreme. Is there verification for that?
It's presented as a claim found on social media in the source material, highlighting the kind of unverified, real-time information or maybe disinformation that swirls around during conflict.
Of course, none of this happens in a vacuum. This recent conflict is deeply, deeply tied to the long history here. The Israeli occupation of the Palestinian territories, West Bank, East Jerusalem, Gaza Strip, since the 1967 Six-Day War.
A decades-long reality.
And significantly, in 2024, the International Court of Justice, the ICJ, actually ruled that occupation illegal.
Which adds a whole new layer, a very powerful legal dimension to the ongoing situation. It shifts the international legal landscape significantly. And if we zoom out, there are these core persistent issues that just keep fueling the conflict. Israeli settlements, for one.
Right, considered illegal by most of the world, though Israel contests that.
And the numbers are significant by 2023. Around 500,000 settlers in the West Bank, another 200,000 in East Jerusalem. This involves land confiscation, displacement, and it carves up Palestinian territory, making a future viable state incredibly difficult.
Physically difficult to even imagine.
Then there's Jerusalem, Israel annexed East Jerusalem back in '67 unilaterally. The UN has never recognized that. And its importance to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam just makes it incredibly sensitive.
A constant flashpoint.
Absolutely. Water resources, too. Israel controls most access to the shared aquifers. While they do supply some water to the West Bank, the inequality affects Palestinian life, health, economy. It's a constant source of friction.
And the refugee issue.
The Palestinian refugees from 1948 and 1967. Israel's position has long been that a large-scale return would threaten the state's stability and its Jewish demographic majority. It's a fundamental, unresolved point of contention.
And flipping the coin, for Israelis, security concerns are constant and real, especially the threat from Qassam rockets fired from Gaza.
Unguided, often indiscriminate projectiles.
Exactly. And our sources note this has caused widespread psychological trauma and disruption of daily life, particularly in southern Israel. It's why those extensive security barriers were built. It's a daily reality of potential attack for many.
And we should also touch on the role of disinformation. One source explicitly mentions how it spreads on social media, making it even harder for anyone to understand what's actually happening.
Yeah, sorting fact from fiction is a huge challenge.
But social media also gives glimpses into other things, like reports of young Israelis burning their military draft papers, protesting against genocide claims showing internal dissent.
Interesting. Different perspectives even within Israel.
Or that observation about Chinese aircraft supposedly penetrating the blockade to deliver aid in May 2025.
Well,
Whether accurate or not, it points to how people perceive shifting global dynamics playing out in this conflict.
so after diving into all this, what does it really mean for you, trying to make sense of it? I think it shows this isn't just about reading headlines. It's this incredibly layered situation. History, international law, military tactics, profound human suffering, even how information flows. It's all tangled together.
Yeah, you absolutely have to look beyond any single narrative. It means appreciating the complexity that comes from looking at all these different kinds of sources, official reports, legal studies, news, even those social media fragments, but always trying to ground it in verifiable facts.
Definitely. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Think about the long-term effects. What does this level of destruction, the repeated displacement, what does that do to a society, to the prospects for any kind of stable peace down the road, even if the fighting stops or an occupation formally ends? The scars run incredibly deep.
A crucial question with no easy answers.
Keep asking those tough questions. Keep digging deeper into the things that matter.